technology, wearables became more and more powerful. They were able to measure a broader range of parameters. They became more, accurate and robust. Then they were able to diagnose and monitor disease. So they became medical wearables. So medical wearables emerged as a new class of medical devices. But what are medical wearables? So let's define medical wearables. So they have four key features. The first one is that they need to provide intimate and non-invasive interface to the body that supports chemical, mechanical, thermal, electrical, and or optical forms of coupling to measure a physiological parameter of clinical significance. So feature one addresses the medical part of the definition. And then there's also feature two, they need to be able to first, in terms of sensing modalities, we didn't talk about chemical at all. We will touch a little bit on chemical today. So we talk about mechanical sensing, thermal sensing, electrical sensing, and optical sensing. So we talk about chemical today. And the second feature is that they need to be able to do continuous wireless monitoring over an extended period of time in both hospitals and non-clinical settings. That means they must be wearable. So this feature addresses the wearable part of the definition. Then the third feature is that they should have the potential to be distributed as a regulated medical device that can diagnose, treat, track, or prevent disease. So they should be portable enough to be used as a medical device. Then the last feature is that the wearables are never meant to be work alone. They were meant to interface with the broader connected healthcare ecosystem to facilitate data fusion, data integration, interpretation, and clinical care. So these are the four features if a device is to become a medical wearable. And we know that medical wearables, should be regulated, and they are regulated by FDA in the United States. So how does FDA, regulate medical devices? So depending on, their risk levels, they are classified into three different categories. So class one is low risk devices. They pose a minimal potential harm to users and require the least regulatory control. So these include bandages, examination gloves, manual stethoscopes, and tongue depressors. So if a tongue depressor fails, it's not going to cause much harm to us. So these are class one devices. Then we also have class two moderate risk devices. So they pose a higher risk than class one and require additional regulatory controls. So these include infusion pumps, blood pressure monitors, pregnancy test kits. For infusion pumps, they are used to infuse drug into the body. So they need to deliver a specific volume at a specific rate. So, things can go wrong if they don't work properly. Then we have blood pressure monitors. So, blood pressure monitors are really something non-invasive, right? So they are not invasive. They are not going to cause any physical harm to us, but why are they like moderate risk? They're not going to, yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to ask, is it
Yeah.
things that could, from a bad reading, give misinformation that is bad? Is that included in the risk?
Yes, exactly. Because if they give a bad reading, they are going to impact medical decision negatively. So they are moderate risk. Same for pregnancy test kits. They are non-invasive, but bad readings can, impact clinical decision. So this is class two moderate risk devices. Then for class three, these are high risk devices. These are devices that sustain or support life, that are implanted or that pose significant risk of illness or injury. So these include pacemakers, implantable defibrillators, artificial heart valves, or deep brain stimulators. These are implanted in body, so nothing can go wrong with these devices. All right, so depending on their categorization, they are in different regulatory pathways. So for class 1 and some class 2 devices, they are exempt devices. That means there's no formal submission to FDA is required. Then for the majority of class 2 devices, they go through a pathway called 510(k) pre-market notification. Note that this is notification, this is not approval. So, and the logic here is that, if there is a similar legally marketed device, which we call a predicate, so you just need to prove that your device is substantially equivalent to a predicate, then your device is cleared to go to the market. So that's the logic for 510(k). So the review time is about 90 days. So if your device is found substantially equivalent, then your device gets FDA cleared. All right, it's FDA cleared, it's not FDA approved. So then, but not all devices have a, go ahead.
And how do you prove that? How do you prove it's SE?
You need to, produce data and show your data is equivalent to,
You need to have like some specific like threshold or clinical studies to be approved, like on patients and stuff like that.
I'm sure there is. Yeah. But I don't know the specifics, but I'm sure there's a specific criteria. Okay, and not all devices have a predicate. So for devices that are first is scanned, so they have to go through something called a de novo classification. So this is for devices without a predicate, but still moderate risk. So once the device passed de novo classification, they are going to provide a new classification for future similar devices. And the review time is about half a year. And for class 3 devices, they have to do pre-market approval. Note that this is approval, this is not notification. So this is the most rigorous process and it's used for high-risk devices. The review time can range from 6 months to several years. And once successful, you say that